Today, I invite you to face the deepest questions. We will embark on a journey to the traces of the great destruction and lost civilizations that humanity has forgotten from the dusty pages of history. In the shadow of the disasters of chaos, storms, and earthquakes, we will deal with the shocking claims that Dr. Chauncey Thomas mentioned in his book, The Adam and Eve Story. These questions are not simple. They are confusing and even a little scary. Does the CIA really know the end of the world? More importantly, is there a 1,000-year-old lost history behind this information? If these claims are true, can the origin of legends like Atlantis really be a forgotten disaster? Let's discover the tips of the iron together. Today, I invite you to face the deepest questions with a scenario that arouses scary questions about the future. Is history really repeating? In 1966, Dr. Chauncey Thomas wrote in his book The Story of Cataclysms about disasters that will confront humanity with a root transformation. However, these disasters have not only happened in the past. Thomas continues that the same events can happen in the future. Imagine everything starts with a light, barely audible rumble. However, this murmur turns into a deafening rumble in a short time. The Earth's crust begins to crack, like a broken glass. Mountains tremble, like trees thrown in the wind. The Pacific Ocean turns into a huge water wall. A giant wave, 2 miles high. And this wave swallows the continents and erases all traces of civilization. Imagine that this scenario is true for a moment. Can our modern cities, advanced technologies, and lives surrender to a natural event that will disappear in seconds? Now, this question arises in our minds. Has humanity really witnessed such disasters throughout history? Myths, geological evidence, and stories about forgotten civilizations are looking for an answer to this question. Big storms, mass destruction, and events that change the fate of the world, are they all just a fiction, or are they the facts that we have forgotten in the past? In the shadow of this nightmare scenario, we will continue to question what we can face as humanity. Don't forget, sometimes understanding the past gives light to the future. Can legendary civilizations such as Atlantis and Lemuria be the victims of the great disasters that have really happened? The theories of Dr. Chauncey Thomas provide a very striking answer to this question. These ancient civilizations may have disappeared in the depths of history with the destruction of sudden glacial flows and the floods around the world. According to Plato's narratives, Atlantis was buried in the waters one day and one night, 11,000 years ago. This civilization, which had advanced engineering knowledge, great wealth, and a circular city structure, suddenly disappeared. Thomas's theory suggests that sudden glacial flows could trigger such a dramatic flood and could have destroyed Atlantis. Well, is this just a legend? This is where the structure of Devrichat and the name of the other Sahara catches the eye. The Northwest, this huge circular structure in Africa, has a surprising similarity to the structure described in Atlantis. It has a structure in the shape of rings with layers. Moreover, the surrounding land is full of wave-like curves. This strengthens the idea that there may be traces of a great flood. Is Atlantis really hidden in these lands? Or is this structure another strange, but magical wonder of nature? In addition to Atlantis, another legendary civilization is Lemuria, or Mu. The legend of Lemuria carries a great continent story, lost in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. According to the belief, these lands once stretched from South America to Hawaii, from there to Easter Island, and Japan. One of the evidences supporting this legend is the Yonaguni underwater remains found in the depths of Japan. Huge stone blocks with stair-like structures and geometric lines are still being discussed whether they are natural or man-made. Another clue is that the Nan Madol in Micronesia is an ancient stone structure built on the sea. Although it is not known whether Lemuria really exists, can these remains be its forgotten traces? Are the stories of these lost worlds just a legend, or are they hidden parts of our real history? Plato's Atlantis, Pacific's Lemuria, and Sarah's Richard structure, all these narratives and remains lead us to the following question. Were these civilizations really destroyed by the floods? If so, where did the survivors go? How did the information cultures, and beliefs they carried, reflect on our world today. Perhaps these lost civilizations shed light on the answers, waiting for us in the dark waters of the past. Now, we will talk about an event that can change the fate of the world instantly. Sudden polar shifts. The most striking claim of Dr. Chauncey Thomas is that the poles of the world can change place in just a few hours. Yes, you heard right. Weeks, months, or years, not a few hours. So, how is this possible? According to Thomas, the geological pressure changes in the depths of our planet, and the balance on the surface of the Earth can fluctuate. As a result, the poles suddenly change place. Hot areas close to the equator are suddenly buried in the cold poles like ice. Thomas shows the remains of animals frozen in Antarctica as proof of this sudden transformation. The most interesting aspect of these remains is that there are still food that has not been chewed in the animal stomachs. This situation suggests that animals are suddenly exposed to extreme cold and freeze almost instantly. But there is a dispute here. The mainstream of scientists accept that such remains are found in the Arctic regions, but they argue that there is no such discovery in Antarctica. So, what about Thomas' supporters? They believe that such discoveries are hidden by the authorities. If this is true, what secrets about the history of the world may be hidden from us? Although these claims are met with suspicion, the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake proved to be a small but striking evidence to support Thomas' theory. After the earthquake, scientists discovered that the North Pole slid about 25 centimeters to the east. Of course, this change is not as big as the dramatic slides that Thomas led. However, this event may be an important sign that shows that the balance of our planet can suddenly deteriorate. If hot and fertile lands are covered with cold like ice, how long can our civilization last? If, as Thomas said, the polar slides take place within hours, neither our dams, nor our cities, nor our agriculture can stand it. There is no definitive evidence to support this theory yet, but this question makes us think, did such sudden transformations occur in the history of our planet? If it happened, can it happen again one day? Maybe the answers to these questions are hidden in the hidden pages of human history. But let's not forget, nature always sets its own rules, and can prepare surprises for us at any moment. Getting ready for the future is about reading the traces of the past correctly. According to Dr. Chauncey Thomas' claim, great disasters have been repeated cycle-wise throughout the history of the world, and these cycles forced humanity to start from scratch many times. So, what exactly are these flood cycles that Thomas led? Let's take a look at these dates together. 10,500 years ago, the young Dryas flood caused the last ice age to suddenly come to an end. The rapid climate changes, great floods, and ecosystems that occurred during this period triggered their collapse. Who knows, maybe the extinction of legendary civilizations like Atlantis started with this disaster.
18,000 years ago, the Bering Strait bridge between modern Russia and Alaska remained under the rising waters. This event shaped the history of the world by changing human migration routes. 29,000 years ago, the end of the Ice Age in Wisconsin. Imagine how the great floods shaped the surface of the world, with the melting of huge ice layers. Maybe this process caused the extinction of the civilizations that existed at that time. 43,000 years ago. Thomas suggests that the oldest recorded flood occurred at this time. But what kind of world, and what kind of humanity was behind this flood? This is a secret that is still waiting to be solved. Thomas's theory is simple, but it is also thoughtful. The world experiences great destruction with regular intervals. And these destructions bring civilizations back to their original point, by uniting them with the ground. These cycles can be triggered by sudden polar shifts, or huge geological changes. Modern science accepts that such great disasters have occurred. However, the world of science rejects that sudden polar shifts are the cause of these events, as Thomas mentioned, or that there are civilizations that developed before these disasters. So, what if the past is really gone, because of such disasters in advanced civilizations? If these cycles are true, maybe the history we know today as humanity is just the last part of a repeating story. Here is where Thomas's question comes into play. If these disasters happen again, will we be ready? In the history of the world, many civilizations may have been submerged, buried in the ice, or erased. However, we are still trying to discover the traces of these civilizations. Perhaps these flood cycles of the past invite us to question the fate of humanity. If history is a truly repeating cycle, where do we stand in that cycle? And how prepared are we for the next disaster? History is full of flashbacks of forgotten civilizations. However, perhaps understanding these flashbacks correctly is the key to saving our future. Now we come to perhaps the most mysterious part of the matter. Is it true? Is it half true? Are the debates revolving around the book called The Adam and Eve Story by Dr. Chauncey Thomas just a theory, or is it trying to cover up a deeper truth? This book, published in 1966, dealt with the theories of Thomas's disaster scenarios and flood cycles. However, the real mystery about the book begins with CIA's interest in this book. For years, the claims that the book was banned and kept away from the public were at the center of many conspiracy theories. When we come to 2013, a copy of the book appeared in the documents that removed the secrecy within the scope of the Freedom of Information Act. This finding confirmed that the book was really in the CIA archives. But the real question to be asked here is, why did the CIA include such a book in their archives? Some researchers argue that Thomas worked on the McDonnell Douglas UFO projects. These projects were quite sensitive issues in the military and intelligence world at that time. Therefore, it seems like a possible explanation that the CIA added the book to their archives, while doing background research on Thomas's work. However, if the matter is deeper than this, issues such as sudden floods, disaster cycles, and civilization resetting mentioned in Thomas's book can pose a serious threat to the world order. One of the reasons why the CIA kept this book in the archives was that it was under control to research such disaster scenarios, or not to create panic in the public game. Another theory was that the content of the book had potential scientific or geopolitical risks. Could Thomas's disaster scenarios be so disturbing that they could not be ignored by worldwide leaders? Although it is still controversial whether the book was really banned or not, one thing is clear. The interest of the CIA in this book is not a coincidence. Thomas's ideas are speculation according to some. However, we have seen that some of the ideas, which started as crazy theories throughout history, have been confirmed years later. So, what if what Thomas said one day coincides with the facts? If the subject of this book is really a warning of disasters repeating in the history of the world, is it something we can overlook? Sometimes looking for the truth begins with looking beyond what is known. Here is the book of Dr. Chauncey Thomas, exactly on this thin line. It is up to you to decide whether it is true or a conspiracy theory. Here we are, ending our journey today with questions that make us think, and maybe a little bit scary. Disasters, floods, lost civilizations. Are these only hidden in the dusty pages of legends, or real events shaping the history of humanity? When we look at the theories of Dr. Chauncey Thomas and the traces of the past, the table in front of us confronts us with the following questions. Were Atlantis and Lemuria really the victims of the floods and developed civilizations? Could the Richat structure in northwest Africa be the remnants of Atlantis, which Plato described? And the most scary thing, could the geological disasters in the past be the informant of the next great flood? We may never know the answers for sure. However, these mysteries in the depths of history clearly reveal something. We cannot prepare for the future without understanding the past. If, as Thomas said, disasters have a circular nature, can we be prepared as humanity this time? Maybe solving the secrets of the past will be the biggest step to shape our future. Remember, sometimes answers are hidden beyond the unknown. We will continue to follow the mystery in the next episode. See you.